My name is Kate, 45 years old. I work for a candy manufacturing company. Through an introduction from a friend, I married Tom, who works for a multinational company. We've been married for 6 years. We don't have kids, and live just the two of us. Today, my mother-in-law, Mary, invited us out. Let's have a family dinner for a change. We came to an upscale restaurant. I don't want to dine with poor strangers, Mary said, looking straight at me, as we were shown to our seats. What do you mean by strangers? Of course, I'm talking about you. Then, who are these people? I glanced at a woman I didn't know, and a little boy who looked about kindergarten age sitting nearby. Who? Their family. What? Mom, calm down. You need to explain properly. Oh, you're right. Silly me. Mary. The strange woman casually called Mary by her first name, while Tom gently patted the boy's head. She is Tom's girlfriend, Mary announced. Nice to meet you. I'm Ellie. And this is my son, David. Hello. What a polite boy. Just what I'd expect from my grandson. Grandson. I'm sorry to tell you, but he is Ellie's and my child. Tom said. Tom, you've been cheating on me. So what? Having one or two mistresses is normal, isn't it? Tom earns enough. I can't understand this. It's not normal. Well, someone like you who grew up poor wouldn't understand. Hey Mom, stop calling her Pooh over and over in a place like this. Tom laughed mockingly with Mary. It's true, my family was poor. I went to public schools from elementary through high school and studied hard to get into a state university. My college life was consumed with studying, assignments, and part-time jobs, leaving no room for fun. After landing a job at a major candy company, I worked tirelessly to support my family, sending money home every month. By my late 30s, I had finally paid off my student loans, but by then, most of my friends were married and building happy families. What should I do with my life now? I met Tom through an acquaintance during that time of confusion. I worked so much that I realized I was almost 40, he said. We bonded over our similar situations and got married. Tom said he didn't need kids, just someone he could feel at peace with. But now, this man smirking in front of me feels like a stranger. I'm hungry. David, are you hungry? You've been such a good boy. The food will be here soon. Mary looked delighted, doting on her first grandchild. Suddenly, my eyes met Ellie's. She gave me a smug smile, taunting me. Hey, how long are you going to just stand there? Tom teased. I told you this was a family dinner. That's right. Outsiders should leave. Tom plans to divorce me and marry Ellie. Soon I'll no longer be part of this family. Dad, who's this lady? The child pointed at me. Huh, she's just a friend of mine. She'll be leaving soon. Don't worry, David. David doesn't shy away from strangers. Ellie chimed in. I see. He's just like Tom when he was little. Tom was never fazed by anything. Really. Tom and the others laughed, excluding me. From an outsider's perspective, they looked like the real family here. So, Kate, can you just leave already? I lifted my head and said clearly, I've been invited to another table, so excuse me. Kate, let's go too. All right. Jim, my father-in-law, who had been silent all along, addressed me. Jim. Dad. Ignoring the two of them, Jim began walking with me. Hey, Jim, where are you going? This is supposed to be a family dinner, isn't it? We'll excuse ourselves so we don't intrude. We were led to a lovely table by the window. What is the meaning of this? Mom. Mary raised her voice, but Tom calmed her down. Realizing the stares from other diners, Mary reluctantly sat back and continued glaring at me. It seemed Mary and Tom decided to behave and eat quietly, at least for now. Kate, let's talk about what's next for us. Yes, I nodded with a serious expression. We finished eating around the same time, and as we left the restaurant, Tom and Mary approached us. We need to talk when we get home. You too, Tom. Jim and I quietly returned home. For some reason, Ellie and her child followed us as well. David, can you go play upstairs? Okay. After sending her child upstairs, Mary immediately cornered Jim. Why are you siding with Kate? I'm just doing what any decent person would do. This isn't what we discussed. His actions were completely unexpected to Mary. She had probably assumed that Jim would side with her and help drive me out. But Jim, unlike the two of them, was a reasonable man. Are you two out of your minds? What? Instead of scolding your son for cheating, you're teaming up to push Kate out. Mary, have you no conscience? And Tom, you said you didn't even want kids, yet you cheated right after getting married. What exactly are you trying to accomplish? Dad, listen to me. I have my reasons. All right, let's hear it then. Dad, you'll understand. Being married makes work easier. In what way? Small talk with clients, discussing family life. When you're single, people freeze up, unsure of what to say. Tom desperately tried to justify himself to Jim, so I just went along with the arranged marriage with Kate. I didn't dislike her, and she seemed convenient enough for marriage. Convenient. I couldn't hold back, and asked him again, unsatisfied with his choice of words. Yay, quiet and manageable. Someone who could take care of the house and wouldn't demand money. What's not to love? So when you said you liked that I worked, this is what you meant. With both of us working, there's no risk of overspending. Realizing the true reason Tom had chosen me, I felt deeply hurt. You wouldn't call me a spendthrift, would you? Ellie clung to Tom's arm. You gave me David, so of course not. Good. Ellie glanced at me briefly. That sounded like you're saying women have no value unless they have kids. Are you okay with that, Ellie? Middle-aged women should stay quiet. You sound jealous, and it's so embarrassing. Don't compare Ellie to you. I clenched my fists to keep my anger in check. So I married this woman, thinking I could focus entirely on work and having fun without worrying about the house. Then Mom started nagging about wanting grandchildren. Oh, my apologies. Mary jokingly replied to Tom's flippant remark. I never thought I'd end up married to someone who was 40 years old. I felt devastated, thinking I'd never get to have grandchildren. I understand how much you wanted grandkids, Mom. It was tough for me too. Why didn't you say anything about it? If I had known, then maybe. Maybe what? You'd suddenly decide to have kids, Kate. At your age? Be realistic. It felt like a direct slap, as if he was saying I could never do it. It hurt deeply. Even so, I would have appreciated a single word about it as your wife. I'm not one to waste time on pointless conversations. Tom's cold gaze cut through me like a knife. And then, when Ellie got pregnant, I thought, this is perfect. I introduced her to Mom, and she got even more excited about it than I did. Grandchildren, Tom. Grandchildren. How could I not be thrilled? Mary's enthusiasm was met with a glare from Jim. Jim looked at Mary, disbelief etched on his face, as if he couldn't fathom how she could accept Tom's outrageous actions. So you and Mary decided to push Kate out of the picture, and my feelings naturally shifted towards Ellie, who was carrying my child. When I consulted Mom, she said, then just get rid of Kate. Tom, you're over 40. How much longer are you going to rely on your mom for advice? Tom needed me. It's only natural for a parent to want to help their child. It's like you've created the ultimate mama's boy and doting parent combo. Well, that's exactly what happened. Jim pinched the bridge of his nose, clearly exasperated. Hey, don't talk about Mary and Tom that way. Ellie suddenly jumped into the conversation. She stood there as if defending Tom and Mary was the most righteous thing she could do. Ellie, I'm fine, thank you. Mary treated me like I was some sort of villain. Taking Ellie's hand weakly. All I ever wanted was grandchildren. Am I not even allowed to wish for that? Of course you are. Everyone has the right to live their life as they please. How ironic, coming from someone who had an affair, and even had a child from it. That's such a shallow thing to say. Is it so wrong to live freely as you want? Only if it doesn't come at the cost of others. That's the key, really. Kate doesn't have kids. She's working, and divorcing her wouldn't really be an issue, would it? Ellie tilted her head, as if genuinely clueless about why this was a problem. A child raised by someone like you is what's truly sad. How can you say something so cruel? Tom pulled Ellie into his arms. I started questioning whether I was truly married to this man. From now on, I'll always be by Ellie's side, raising this child to be someone extraordinary. Coming from an affair couple, that's hardly convincing. You. Out of nowhere, Ellie burst into tears, leaning against Tom's chest. What's wrong? Ellie, are you okay? Mary rushed over, gently rubbing Ellie's back. David is going to start elementary school soon. I want both parents to be there for his first day. So now they were trying the emotional angle. How manipulative to use the child. If I show up as a single mom at the entrance ceremony, the other kids might tease him. Well, that's on the kids doing the teasing, not on you. But isn't it unfair for David to experience something like that? For once, she made a valid point, though I couldn't help but think, aren't you the ones who created this situation? Please, Kate, let me have Tom. She grasped my hand, pleading with me. This is the perfect timing. And I wanted Dad for the kids before they grow up. You can't just ask me for that. Even if you disagrees, I'm marrying Ellie. Tom pulled Ellie away from me as he made his declaration. That's right. Kate, you don't have a choice in this. Raising kids costs a lot, and I can't do it alone. Please, understand, you don't have to ask someone like her. Kate can manage on her own, but Ellie needs us. Tom, Mary. Ellie clung to them, crying. I would never abandon Ellie and David, no matter what. So, stop crying. Kate, you wouldn't be so cold-hearted as to turn your back on Ellie and her child, would you? Mary's words left me silent. Jim, say something? Didn't you always say you'd love to have grandkids? Mary turned to Jim for support. He crossed his arms, deep in thought. Kate, I know this is hard for you, but wouldn't it be nice for us to finally have grandkids to brag about? Doesn't that make you happy? It might not happen right away, but over time, Dad will forget about Kate. You don't have to feel guilty about this. I couldn't help but want to shout. You have no right to say that. Mary and Tom were desperate to pull Jim to their side, but Jim had been on mine all along. I'm not siding with you two. What? But Jim, you agreed with us at first. You've been deceiving us. From the moment you told me about this, I had already made my decision. I pretended to cooperate, but I was sending information to Kate. Jim, did you think I'd blindly support you just because you're my son? I want to be a man of integrity. Watching you two makes my skin crawl. That's going too far. Neither of them wanted to accept that Jim was truly on my side. They both grabbed his arms, but Jim shook them off forcefully, even brushing off his arms as if removing dirt. Don't touch me, Jim. When you planned to bring Ellie and her child to the family dinner, you laughed about turning away anyone who wasn't family, didn't you? Well, yes. That's why I decided I'm not your family anymore. I arranged for a separate table. Mary quickly tried to correct herself. Jim, you're my family. Jim quietly shook his head and pulled a piece of paper from his bag. We can't be family anymore. Mary took the paper. This. Signed the divorce papers. Jim handed her the divorce application. What are you thinking? Divorce? All of a sudden. I've been considering it ever since you started spiraling out of control. No. Gray divorce is humiliating. How could I face anyone? I can't stay with someone as despicable as you any longer. I can't understand this. Mary screamed with all her might, collapsing into tears. If Jim leaves me, how am I supposed to go on? You have Tom. He agreed and helped with this plan, so he won't abandon you. Right, Tom? Yes, of course. It's hard for me too. After all these years with Mary, I have feelings for her. Then why? Even so, I can't forgive this, bringing a mistress and her child to shame Kate, mocking her as poor, and declaring she isn't family. It's inexcusable. I'm sorry, I promise it won't happen again. But you're fine with Tom's remarriage, aren't you? Give me a break. Actually, I can't agree with remarriage either. What? It's just wrong. An affair. What was I even thinking? Mary said to me, looking apologetic, I'm truly sorry. I realize now that Kate is the only wife Tom should have. What? Give me a break, Mom. Tom, think about this carefully. It's not right. You can't just stop the divorce because you don't like it. Mary, won't you let David be my grandson? David is my grandson no matter what. Just make sure I get to see him from time to time. That's so convenient for you. Even Ellie seemed shocked by this. And so was I. Just seeing him? That's disrespectful to Kate. But I still want to see my grandson. Mary looked uneasy as Jim sighed. Is that really too much to ask? Of course it is. You just don't get it, Mary. I'm sorry, but please don't go through with the divorce. My decision hasn't changed. Jim picked up a pen nearby and signed the divorce papers. Oh no, I'll leave this with Mary. Once you've signed, pass it along. I'm so sorry. Is apologizing to me enough? Mary looked at me with frightened eyes and muttered an apology in a barely audible voice. I'm sorry. I have no intention of forgiving you, Mary. Live the rest of your life feeling the weight of your actions. Yes, how could you say that to her? So cruel. She just wanted a grandchild, didn't she? She'll regret today for the rest of her life. Mom, don't worry. Come live with us. What? For a moment, Ellie's voice betrayed her displeasure. Mom was on our side. Of course, that's fine, right? Yes. Ellie forced a fake smile to cover her true feelings. Thank you, thank you. Mary looked slightly relieved. But the next words from Jim stunned her. You won't get a dime of my inheritance. What do you mean we won't get the inheritance? Exactly what I said. Are you donating it all to charity or something? No, I'm leaving it to Kate. What? Excuse me. Both of them turned to me, demanding an explanation. Why is Kate getting Dad's inheritance? Did she seduce Jim? That must be it. Mary, who had been crying moments ago, suddenly regained her vigor at the mention of inheritance. Her emotional swings were exhausting. How many times will you make the same mistakes? Show some respect to Kate. Then why is Jim's entire inheritance going to this woman? Normally, it should go to his son, Tom. Exactly, for David's sake, the inheritance should go to Tom. Ellie, could you stay out of this? What? Tom has a good salary, doesn't he? He doesn't need my inheritance. Why is this such a big deal to you? I just think it's better to have more savings. Even so, this is not Ellie's concern. I'm sorry. but I have a right to complain. Go ahead. Giving the inheritance to Kate, who isn't even your child, is wrong. There's a reason for it. What is it? I'm leaving the inheritance to Kate for the sake of my grandchild. What? Grandchild? Tom tilted his head in confusion. Is the grandson David? Why would that concern Kate? Jim sneered at Tom, clearly not understanding. Feeling mocked, Tom flared up. What's so funny? There's no grandson besides David. It's not about him. What? I don't get it. Of course, you don't. I stared directly at Tom's face. The grandson Jim mentioned is our child. What? I'm pregnant. You can't be serious. It's true. I pulled a doctor's report from my bag and placed it on the table. With trembling hands, Tom picked it up and stared at it intently. Is this real? Is Kate really pregnant? Still in disbelief, Tom looked at my stomach. Wait, does that mean? It means there's definitely a grandchild for Mary on the way. What? Mary looked utterly shocked. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Still staring at my stomach, Tom muttered. Because your affair came to light, and I had more pressing matters. If you'd told me, if I had told you what? That you would stop cheating and avoid humiliating me in that restaurant. As I sighed, Mary hurried to my side. Kate, you should have told me this sooner. What? If I'd known you were pregnant, there wouldn't have been a need to even admit to the affair. She lightly patted my shoulder, as if it were my fault for not saying anything. I always knew you were a wonderful daughter-in-law, Kate. Her sudden shift in tone, paired with a beaming smile, made me feel nauseous. Not from morning sickness, but sheer disgust. Mary. Ellie timidly addressed her. Ellie, you're still here. What? This is family time now. Outsiders should leave. The words she'd once hurled at me were now being aimed at Ellie. It revealed how shallow Mary truly was. Tom, you're not going to abandon me, are you? Desperately, Ellie clung to Tom, but even he pushed her away. Mom's right. How much longer do you plan to stay here? What about David? He's your child. An affair doesn't look good. There's no way I'll acknowledge him. Mary's words echoed, and Tom nodded in agreement. I can't believe this. Ellie's face turned crimson, her hands shaking with fury. She stormed upstairs, returning moments later, dragging her son by the hand. David, we're leaving. What? What about Dad? Be quiet. Poor David, innocent in all this, cried as Ellie led him away. So Tom, how does it feel to have left such a deep scar on a child? Hearing David's sobs, Tom looked visibly pained, guilt flickering in his eyes. That boy might never forget today. Building up his hopes of having a dad, only to crush them. Don't you feel bad? Kate is right. Tom sank into the sofa, utterly defeated. The room grew heavy with tension. Yet Mary, oblivious to the atmosphere, brightened up, as if relieved the nuisance was gone. So when's the due date? What? You're planning your maternity leave around it. Right, I am. But, wait. Isn't working dangerous for an older pregnancy? Mary began muttering to herself, lost in thought. You should just quit your job. Why do you get to decide? I'm not quitting. Kate, you're already 45, right? You're not a typical pregnant woman, so you have to be more careful than others. I understand that better than anyone, so it's not your place to interfere. I'm just worried about you. What if you miscarry? I've already informed my workplace about the pregnancy, and they've assured me they'll be flexible if I'm unwell or need time to recover. That's just lip service, isn't it? No. They've even asked me to be a role model for women my age who want to balance childbirth, parenting, and work. That sounds too convenient. It's true, and this data can even serve as great PR for the company. I still don't agree. I'm asking you. Why do you the right to object, Mary? Why not? I'm Kate's mother-in-law. I'm family. Because you're not going to be family anymore. Kate pulled out a piece of paper and quietly placed it in front of Tom. Kate too. I'm filing for divorce. What are you thinking? You're pregnant. I'll raise the child on my own. Don't be ridiculous. It's not ridiculous. I have a stable job, and I can manage, but it's unfair to the child not to have a dad. A dad who cheats and irresponsibly fathers children is better off out of the picture. Please don't go through with the divorce. Tom's voice was pitifully weak. You don't want a divorce, Tom. Is it because it would be inconvenient for your job? That's part of it, but I also think it's better for the child to be raised by both parents. I can handle things just fine on my own. I swear I'll never cheat again, and I'll take care of the family. Please give me another chance. Please, Kate. It was just a momentary lapse of judgment for Tom. A momentary lapse of judgment. He's been cheating for 5 years. I truly regret it. Tom collapsed onto his knees on the floor from the sofa. I'm begging you. Please, let's start over. Even with his deep apology, my resolve didn't waver. Stop. That won't change my mind. Kate, you should be more worried about yourself. What? I debated whether to tell you, but I'll say it out of pity. Tom looked up. Kate knew what she was about to say would crush him further. The child you thought was yours for 5 years might not be. What? The child you've been caring for all this time might belong to another man. That's impossible. Just like you were cheating on me. Did you think Ellie was only devoted to you? No way. Yes, way. Kate took out her smartphone and showed Tom a photo. Who's this man? It was a picture of Ellie walking arm in arm with another man. This was taken earlier this year. She showed Tom the photo's metadata as well. I don't know how long she's been seeing him, but just like you, she's clearly fine with cheating. That can't be. I've given her so much money, so that's where all the extra expenses were going. Well, I mean, it's probably better than being a stingy, terrible man who won't even pay for his illegitimate child. Tom, how could you let that woman fool you? What were you thinking? What do you mean it's my fault? She's the one who lied. So I've spent 5 years thinking someone else's child was my grandkid? I want my time and money back. Why are you yelling at me? Mary, calm down. This is just my assumption for now. I tried to calm Mary down, though I almost laughed. It's just a possibility, so I'll suggest Tom get a DNA test. That's right. You should do it. I'm going to sue that woman for deceiving us. Should I do it? Are you seriously asking me? Either keep believing the child is yours and stay involved, or find out the truth. Your choice. Tom lowered his head, deep in thought. Although part of him was scared to face the truth, he couldn't ignore the doubts gnawing at him. Maybe it's scary to upend everything you know, but think about what's best for you. I placed a hand on his shoulder, trying to sound supportive, but inside, I was hoping he'd spiral into despair and misery. So here's my divorce paperwork, Tom. Just sign it and give it back to me. Is this really the end? How many times do I have to tell you? Yes, it is. When the baby is born, you'll let me see them, won't you? What are you even saying? Of course not. Please, out of kindness for an old man, let me see them just once a month. Once a month. That's a lot. I don't plan on letting either of you meet the baby. You can't be serious. Mary collapsed to the floor, crying, perhaps mourning the loss of the grandchild she'd dreamed of. Tom remained silent, his tears barely held back. And just like that, in a single day, both my marriage to Tom and Mary's marriage to Jim ended. Afterward, My divorce with Tom was finalized. I also successfully received my compensation. As for Mary, she was divorced by Jim as planned and evicted from their home. Tom rented an apartment where he seems to be living with Mary for now. It turned out the illegitimate child wasn't Tom's after all. Worse, Ellie's boyfriend was already married, and now his wife was involved, creating an even bigger mess. Tom, I heard through an acquaintance, became so worn out that his performance at work suffered, leading to a major mistake. He was fired almost immediately. With Mary unemployed, he's now searching for a new job. Once, Mary came to my office. She looked much older after the divorce. Please, let me see my grandchild. Tom wants to see you too. No, and stop coming to my workplace. It's a nuisance. With that, she left, looking utterly defeated. Some might think I was cruel, but I had to protect myself. If something happened to my child because of them, I'd never forgive myself. After giving birth, I visited Jim. Welcome. It's so great to see you. She's a healthy little girl. I can't wait to see what her future holds. Yes, she's wonderful. Seeing Jim hold our daughter made me happy too. Watching a grandfather enjoy time with his granddaughter was heartwarming.